Hey everyone, welcome back to an Insomniac's Insight. This is my 5th episode. Today we'll be talking about, some of my experiences with, I guess you wouldn't necessarily say it's supernatural slash paranormal type stuff, because some of the things I don't actually recall fully seeing, like full-fledged. I can tell you exactly what it was. Other times it was just kind of, things that I heard, or things that were around me, or just quick glimpses of things that I've seen. Anyways, it's gonna be things that I've seen outdoors whenever I go hunting or camping, with my family, mainly my dad and my younger brothers, and of course with some family friends. I'll also share some of their stories, the family friends, just the stuff that they've told me, just because I find some of them so interesting, I guess, so intriguing. But I just thought those would be something that I'd want to share with you guys. I've never shared stories along those kinds of lines, so I thought they might be a bit entertaining. They might be a little bit different, give me something else to talk about, and just share some more experiences that I've had, besides just paranormal and ghost type activity, but more along the lines of, I guess you would call it supernatural-ish type activity, things that are unexplained but are not necessarily ghosts, or they're not necessarily spirits or anything along those lines. So it's just something to change up the pace a bit, but there's a couple different ones, there's just a few that stand out to me, I guess you could say. I've been going hunting slash camping ever since I can remember, since I was a young child. I was around, I want to say maybe 4-ish is when the first time that I went, and I've loved it ever since. I've never gotten tired of it. I love the great outdoors. It's something that I always find so interesting, so peaceful. It's just something that, just as hard as we try to understand it, there's always going to be things we don't understand. Nature itself is always very, how would you describe it, I guess, vast and peaceful at the same time. It can be so nice, so joyful, so happy, but yet so eerie and frightening to some people, I guess you would say. I know a lot of people don't like the outdoors. I think the only thing I hate about the outdoors would probably be mosquitoes. I cannot stand mosquitoes because they always seem to bite me for whatever reason. They never want to bite my dad or my brothers, but they'll bite me, no problem. But besides that, I enjoy the outdoors. I love being out there. Walking around, hiking, camping, setting up little camps, even though I don't have a place to stay, just to see if I could do it. I feel like I've learned a lot of stuff like that from my dad and from family friends, as time's gone by, and I feel like there's always something for me to learn how to do out there, And then on top of that, like I said, we go hunting from time to time. It's not just for sport, we actually use all the meat and stuff that we get from the animals. And most of the time it's not, game animal. We don't necessarily hunt like exotic animals. The main thing that we do is for the people that, I guess you could say, we lease the land off of. We hunt the pigs that destroy the property. Because I don't know if a lot of people know, but pigs and javelinas and stuff like that were brought in as game animals back in around I'd say it was around the 70s and 80s. They began to mass produce, like mass breed, and they caused a lot of problems for a lot of people who owned the land that they used to rent out and lease for hunting. And that's still a big problem today, especially here in Texas. All over Texas, there's a lot of lands where it's just out of control as to how these pigs and javelinas and boars and stuff like that are running rampant across all the land of the leases. And we have to kind of, they don't pay us to do it. We kind of pay to do it ourselves to be able to go hunt them and see how many we can get. There's no limit as to how many we can get, but just so that way they would stop destroying the land is the main issue. It was really used more for sport at one point, but now it's become such a big problem that they love to destroy all the land. They rut and they scrape up all the rocks and dirt, and they busted pipelines, they bust down fences, they scare away all the game animals, they eat all the food, they get into the garbage and the trash. It's pretty hectic, to say the least. And then the people who own the land, it's usually just them and their wife and kids or whatnot, and there's hundreds of thousands, even depending on how big your land is, as to how many boars there are out there. So it's impossible for you to get them all. You might get lucky and catch a few in a trap here and there, or while you're out, just out and about doing maintenance on the land. But when you have people leased on the land who are able to hunt, have the hunting license, like people like me, then we usually just go in there and they ask us to, instead of just hunting just typical bucks and does and stuff like that, we also hunt the boars, just to kind of help out a bit. And it's a benefit for us because we get meat and stuff like that. So for those of you who do not like that type of stuff, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be talking about that a lot. But I know, just I apologize about that for if it might offend you and whatnot. I understand everybody has their own beliefs and their own values as to how that works. But for me, that's just what I grew up with, and that's what I'm used to, But like I said, that's not something I'm going to be covering, anything like that. Just more along the lines that giving you a bit of backstory as to what I do or what we would do when we were out there. It's just something that I've always done. We always go hunting. That's kind of the main thing. Other times we just go out there to just camp and enjoy the outdoors, just to see what we can find. There's so many things that are out there that are just hidden gems, just things that you wouldn't find if you weren't looking for it, and even then you would find it and you're not even looking for it. And I've stumbled across I don't know how many items that I never thought I'd find out there, and it's crazy as to what you can find. I feel like in one of the leases that I have, or not I have, but I've been on, we found a whole bunch of old weaponry items, like arrowheads, little tomahawks and axes and stuff like that, made out of flint and other types of stone, and that was pretty interesting. We found, on one of them we found like a couple of old belt buckles and buttstocks from guns that were just broken and left behind, old pots and pans, coins. One time we found like a little, I guess you would call it like a pin or a medallion that belongs like on a cap or a vest of some sort that looked like it was from a military-esque type thing. I still have that at home somewhere. What else? I feel like I found a couple different items. I found like weirdly shaped rocks and stuff like that seem to have like faces, or I know my dad found one that he said looks like it has the Virgin Mary on it, which is pretty cool. Just things like that, random items that you probably wouldn't even think to find if you had never been out there. You just kind of stumble upon it. Other than that, I've also seen a couple different things, I guess it just depends on what lease I'm at. There's this one that we go out to in Rock Springs. It's a pretty big lease. That's one that we've gone to for a while now. It's one of the more, I guess you could say, more recent that I remember. But we've had so many things happen up there, and I've heard a whole bunch of other stories, One story in particular that stands out to me is it was a winter month. I believe it was probably end of November, beginning of December-ish, back in, I say around 2006, 2007, that me and my dad were going to go meet one of our friends out there. His name's Red. And, he had gotten there a day early so he can get the camp ready, start the generators, move all the lights where they need to be, double check that we don't need any other materials, so that way when we get out there, we can be good to go and go hunt the next morning. So anyway, he got out there the day before. He said it was pretty cold, so he didn't feel like being outside. Most of the time we just sit around the fire outside and bullshit or whatever. And so he was just there inside and trying to get the TV to work, so it was just him. He didn't have anybody to go with him. Me and my dad were on our way. We were supposed to be there that night. And we were on our way there, and we were probably going to get there around, I say, 2 in the morning. But around this time, it was around 11:30, 12 for Red, when he was just there trying to get the TV to work. And he couldn't get it to work. And then eventually he gave up, started bringing all his stuff inside, instead of just messing around and, waiting for us. So he brought all his gear inside, shut off the lights outside, except for the one that's over the porch, because so that way the animals won't be tempted to come up to the porch, even though sometimes they still do. We get raccoons and all kinds of little animals that go up and around the campsite, mainly because of the warmth and the smell of food or whatever. And so he gets up there, locks the door. He says he goes over there, finally gets the TV to work after about another 15 minutes or so. And he's just sitting there, listening to the wind howl outside. It's pretty cold. That is around high 40s, low 50s. And he left all the ice chests and stuff like that outside. It's what we do, just so that we won't have so much crap inside. And he's sitting there laughing away. I think he said he was watching some kind of funny movie on the TV. And then he says as it switches from a commercial to back to the show, he heard like a loud thump outside. But he didn't think nothing of it because of the fact that there's stuff that just climb up on the porch all the time, raccoons and stuff like that, like I said before, or sometimes squirrels and birds or little foxes and coyotes and stuff like that. They'll just go around and mess with the stuff. So he didn't think much of it. And he just heard rustling around on the porch outside, nothing too big, nothing too small. But he didn't feel like trying to scare him away because there was kind of no point. They couldn't get into the food. They couldn't mess with the trash. There was no trash yet. So he just let him be. He just sat down, enjoyed his show and whatnot. And said after a while, he kind of got this funny feeling that something was there. Something was behind him, and it was kind of quiet. He could only hear the wind. It was just howling away behind him. It was a cold night. He got the chills, and he just had the kind of the urge to look back behind him. He was sitting in front of a window, and he slowly turned around, and he said when he turned around, he saw what kind of looked like what he described it was as basically something that looked out between a crossbreed of Chewbacca and his cousin Randy. So his cousin Randy has this huge ass nose, right? And he said it was just big, furry, and it had this drooling patch where it looked like it had drooled all along his chin. His hair was all matted and dark, and he said he had some dark brown eyes. But he didn't see it like right there in the window. It was just sitting right there on the porch, looking through the window. He couldn't tell if it was looking at him, or if it was looking at the TV, or if it was just looking inside to see what was there, if it even noticed him at all. But he said he saw that, and then as soon as he made a quick movement, it kind of connected eyes with him for like a split second, and then it just ran off the porch and headed out. And he said he ran to the front door, opened the front door, went out to the porch with his rifle, and tried to look for it, and it wasn't there. He could hear some trees rustling towards the right side of him, going up the side of the hill, but he didn't see anything. He didn't see any footprints. He saw all the trash that the thing had left behind. It knocked over one of the ice chests. The lamp that was on the outside thing that we had been trying to fix the last time we were there, because it was one of the older ones that we found in the other cabin, was broken. There was a bag of feed that was on the porch, but it was on the floor now. So he knew it was there. He knew it wasn't crazy. There was something on that porch that had messed it up pretty bad, but he couldn't describe what it was. He said it just didn't look normal. It didn't look right, and because of that, it didn't sit right with him. He said after that he didn't feel like watching TV anymore, obviously. So he just decided to lay down in one of the bunk beds with his pistol, and he just waited for us. We got there a little bit later than expected, and we were looking for him, or not really looking for him, but looking for the light to be on. And we went up to the front porch, and then he opened the door, and we weren't expecting that. And he looked kind of pale, he looked kind of shook up, and my dad asked him what was wrong, and he said, "Man, I don't know what the hell I saw, but I saw something." He said, I seen something I hadn't seen before. And at first my dad thought he was messing with us, but then you could tell just by the look in his eyes that he did see something. Something bothered him a lot, whether it be something that he actually thought it was, or just maybe his imagination, because it had been so late, and he's just there by himself. The mind kind of plays tricks on you whenever you're bored or whenever you're alone. I'm pretty sure that's happened to a couple of people, but whatever it was, whatever he thinks he saw, it freaked him out a bit, and he said he remembers it clearly. He remembers how the long hair flowed down the side of his head, and under its chin and across its lips. He says he remembers those white, the white part of his eyes, and then the dark, deeper brown part of his eyes. He says he remembers that huge nose and the little look in its eyes, that it was kind of curious, not kind of angry, not dangerous or anything like that. Just, he said it just looked like curiosity, but he didn't want to figure out what it was curious for, you know. Let's see. Other than that's probably one of the more prominent ones that stand out to me, especially because I'd never heard anything like that from Red. He's a very honest guy, so I never would have figured something like that to happen to him. He's never spoken about anything like that. He doesn't joke about stuff like that. So it was just kind of odd for him to have an experience like that when he's never had one. He still remembers it. I've asked him about it many times, and he still describes everything the same way. He's just sitting there watching TV, and he just gets that funny feeling and decides to look back. Let's see. Other than that, I think another story would probably have to be one that happened to a couple of my dad's friends when they were there, and we were out on the other lease, about a mile down, because it's a 2-part lease where there's one in the middle, but we usually go hunt at one side and they hunt on the other, so that way, we kind of don't mess with each other when the animals start to get out. But anyway, it was Paco and Perry. They were out coming back from, it's one of the places where we make a phone call. It's called Widow's Peak or Divorce Hill. They give it like a whole bunch of different names. But they were coming back down from there. They had made a call to, I believe it was Paco's wife, giving her a call, let her know that he's going to be coming home tomorrow because he was going home earlier than us because of work and whatnot. And my dad and I were over there on the other side, about a mile down in this other ridge. I was on this place called Baboon Hill, and my dad was down at the gully. So we were coming back on the 4-wheeler, coming up the trails. I was waiting for my dad, and he was coming up from the gully, coming to get me, and then we were going to head back up the mile road to go back to camp. And then while we're waiting, it started to rain. It was about around the afternoon time. So we were waiting it out a little bit, before we headed back down the road. And while we're there, we heard a gunshot. We heard a rifle shot, and then we heard another. And the first shot sounded like it hits. You can kind of tell, I guess, if you get used to it, more or less, when a gunshot hits. Whenever you hear it hit something, you kind of hear the first initial blast, like the boom, and then it'll hit real quick if it hits a target, or if it hits something that, it's meant to, like a boom, boom, real quick, especially with like a rifle or a pistol. And then if it's empty, like it doesn't hit anything, you miss, or it just hits something too far off in the distance where you can tell it probably wasn't meant to be hit. It just sounds like a boom, and then it kind of fades away, and just like the loud blasting sound after it, and kind of echoes out throughout the region that's around you, just kind of drowns out. But anyways, we heard the first shot and it sounded like a hit, and we heard the other shot and it didn't sound like it hit anything, but it was really quick after the first one. Now, usually, whenever we're out there hunting the boars or whatever, we will take shots, multiple shots. If it happens, we happen to miss the first shot, or if the first shot wasn't a kill shot, so we heard the shots, and we went ahead and waited a couple minutes before we called on the radio, because we usually have a couple walkies, so we can kind of keep in touch with each other, know what's kind of going on. And we called over to Perry and asked Perry, what he get, or what did Paco get, because they hadn't seen anything, while they were out there earlier. So we were hoping they got something good, either got a couple pigs or maybe got a buck or two, if they had seen anything. And so we called them on the walkie while we're heading back up there in the rain, and he told us over the walkie that, man, I don't know what the fuck I just shot at, but it wasn't anything like I seen here before. And I asked him, what do you mean? I was like, was it a huge pig? Was it something different? Coyote? Was it a mountain lion? We have all kinds of shit out here. And he's like, no, man, it wasn't any kind of animal that we've had out here. He's like, I don't even think it was an animal at all. And he's like, me and Paco are gonna go check it out right now. He's like, I know I hit it, but I don't see it. I don't see it. All the rain, I don't see it. But me and Paco were gonna take the Jeep and go up there. And we told them to wait for us, but they insisted on going. So we headed up back there to camp. We got up to camp, dropped off all our stuff, and just took the rifles and took the 4-wheeler to go meet them where they said they were at. And then when we got up there, we went to go find Perry, and he was over there walking down the trail looking with the flashlight, and Paco was at the Jeep. We asked Paco, what happened. So Paco and Perry tell us that they were out there walking back down from Divorce Hill. They looked back in the distance because it was starting to rain, and they were trying to see if it was coming in quick. Should they head in quick? Should they wait a bit, wait it out? Kind of like what we were doing at the other side. And when they look back, they see on the little ridge up about I think they said it was about 500 to 600 yards away. They see something like on the ledge, and Paco wanted to take a look at it with the binoculars. Said he couldn't really tell what it was, couldn't really make it out. And then he said that he saw it kind of crouched on the side. It was just crouched down, looking at the edge. And then, so he got his rifle. This was big, he could tell it was big. And just to get a better look at it through the scope. And when he looked at it through the scope, he saw that it kind of started to lean back and want to get up on its hind legs. And he said it looked kind of fragile, very, very thin, very bony type, like it was malnourished kind of thing, Said it looked dark in color. Couldn't tell if it had dark fur, if it was just dark completely, but it didn't look right. He said it kind of gave him this weird feeling in his stomach when he saw it. Kind of leaned back like if it was trying to get up on its hind legs, right? And he said the face looked like it had a snout, and that the other limbs looked like he was supposed to be on all four. They were bent the way that they're supposed to be, but that it was trying to stand up on its hind limbs. Couldn't tell if it had a tail or anything like that. And he said that when he looked and he saw it through the scope, they heard this weird, not howl, but like a screeching sound coming from the direction of the thing as it kind of leaned, not leaned back, kind of just sat back on its hind legs. And that it sounded really weird. It sounded kind of distorted and creepy, kind of something that they'd never heard before. You hear the sounds of coyotes howling, you can know what that is. You hear the sound of boars snorting, and you know what that is. You hear the sound of like a mountain lion or goats or mule deer or aoudad or axis bucks. It kind of sound like dogs or whatever. And white-tailed deer, you can tell what that is, but they said that just didn't sound right. It didn't sound normal. It didn't sound like something that was supposed to be making that kind of noise. But it sounded kind of low, but very distorted, very scratchy kind of sounding, I guess you could say, but it was like a low rumble. But he said he could kind of they didn't know if it was just a feeling it gave him, but he felt it in his stomach. So he told Paco that he was going to shoot it, and Perry shot at it. And that's the first one that hit. He said it hit, and it kind of flinched, and it started making its way down the side of the hill, kind of stumbling. And that's when he took another shot, and he missed. They gave it a few minutes, because sometimes every time you hit something, it doesn't just drop dead right there. It takes a minute. They don't want to just try to run up on it and make it run further than it needed to kind of let it pass. But they went out there and as soon as they could, and they saw the little blood trail going down the side where the rocks were at. Even though the rain was coming, it was kind of washing away what they did have. And they found the blood, so he knew he hit it. He heard it, and he found the blood, and found a little patch of fur there. And he still has that little patch of fur, I think. I don't know if he does or doesn't though, but I think he does. He showed it to us. It was just like a little small clump of darkish hairs. They were really rough. And so he decided to try to follow the blood trail before the rain washed it away. And that's why he was walking out on the trail. And he got up to about, he said he went down about 50, 60 yards maybe before the blood trail just stopped. the rain kept washing it away. So there was no way for him to keep following it. Even then, he was just following like little bits and pieces that he just got lucky to find. But he said he doesn't know what it was. He said it just scared the shit out of him, scared the shit out of Paco, and ever since then they look for it. They look on that hill every once in a while whenever we're out there, and wonder what the fuck it is, and if it's ever gonna come back or if it actually died. But he says that that's just something that's odd. He never would have imagined seeing something like that, and I don't think I would have ever imagined seeing something like that either. Like he said, he couldn't even describe it because it was so dark. What kind of animals he could compare it to, but he just knows it wasn't natural. It wasn't right. So those are two things that a couple of people have told me. Those are just a few that kind of stand out to me that I remember the most vividly. Other ones would probably be from our friend Ariel. Like I said earlier in the story, there was this one place that we go to, or that I've been up on. It's called Baboon Hill, and the reason why it's called Baboon Hill is because on that lease, at one point back in, I think he said it was 98, 97, maybe, the owner of the lease wanted to bring new game into, the whole lease. So he had brought in a couple different mule deer. He brought in mountain lions, and he brought baboons. It's a real thing. He's actually showed us the pictures of him having the baboons, when he bought them and everything like that. I think he said he had around 6 baboons. Just thought it'd be something interesting. And lo and behold, the game warden said that, he couldn't have baboons. They were too dangerous, too risky for the hunters. So he said, you're gonna have to get rid of them. Well, unfortunately, when he was trying to get rid of the baboons, he was trying to not sell them back, but sell them to another lease where they could have them. It wasn't here in Texas, but I forgot where he said it was. That he was trying to get rid of them. He was going to sell all 6, but 2 of them, he couldn't find 2 of them. When he was on the lease, he found the other ones with a couple of his friends. They went out there to go recapture them and put them in the cages so that way they can take them back. And the other 2, they couldn't find them worth the shit. He said they looked for over a week or 2 weeks in the area where they were supposed to be, because there was only one area that they would kind of frequent. They couldn't find them. They looked over the rest of the lease as much as they could, day in and day out. Never saw them. They would hear them. They would hear them screeching. They would hear them yelling at each other. Stuff like that, but they could never find them. They never got a chance to see them in order to actually capture them, So he figured, I'll just let it be. They won't, either one, we'll catch them randomly, or 2, they'll end up passing away, and, that'll be the end of it. And as bad as that sounds, that's just kind of how it was back then, because sometimes you just have to wait it out. So he kind of just let it be and never thought much of it, So since he had never seen them, up until then, he had just kind of warned people, just be on the lookout, and people would think that he was playing with them. So he warned us, he warned Ariel. And, it had been a while. It had been a long time, never seen him. He said for a couple of years people heard him, but then after a while that stopped too. And, just more or less kind of not forgot about them, but just figured, that's it, they're probably gone. Well, anyways, it was during the evening hunt, and the sun was going down. It was getting darker, right? So it was my dad and my cousin James. They were over there on the mile down lease while I was over at the cabin with one of our friends called Joe. And we got a radio call on Ariel telling us that he was trying to call my dad, but he wasn't getting good reception, because sometimes when my dad's down in the gully, or James is down in the gully, the radio's kind of shoddy. So he called us, let him know that he'd be heading in soon, but if we get a call from my dad, or if we can try to call my dad, let him know that he's ready, and that he'd meet him down at the bottom of the hill in about 45 minutes. So we were waiting, never heard a call, and then we get another call about 15 minutes later from Ariel, telling us that he might be a little bit longer because he hears something behind him. We asked him why would he wait a little bit longer. He said it sounds kind of not big, but he says it sounds big enough. It could be probably a ram, or it could be a buck. He said it could be one of those, so he'd rather wait it out until as much as he can. We usually don't wait that long until we can't see, because then it gets kind of difficult for us to hunt. You're not supposed to hunt at night anyway. But we wait a good while until my sun goes down till we can barely see. We give it to that last little bit of hope, just give us that extra chance. Even though it doesn't make much of a difference, but it kind of helps out a bit. So anyways, he said he's gonna wait it out, and he heard stuff going left and right. He said it just sounded like it was getting closer, and he said, and after a while, it just kind of stopped. It kind of stopped, and he didn't hear anything for a while. And he was just there waiting for it to kind of either come around the left side of him or come down the right side of him, or maybe watch it go towards the feeder. That's what he was kind of hoping for, he said. And then all of a sudden he said he hears noise again right behind him, and he thought that was kind of weird. He's like, he didn't know what to do if the literal deer came right behind him. He just had to sit there and see what happens, or wait for it to pass around him. So he's just kind of keeping his fingers crossed, but staying still the whole time, making sure that nothing happens, or that he doesn't spook it off, just to get that extra chance that maybe he'll get something before he heads out. And so he's there, and he hears it getting closer. He doesn't want to move, doesn't want to make a sound. And as he's sitting there, he said over his right hand shoulder, he felt something small, like a small hand, just creep up and kind of like grab around his right shoulder. And then he felt something press up against his back. And he felt like it was all roll instantaneous, but he felt like kind of slow, where it just kind of slowly rested its hand on his shoulder, pressed up against his back, and he felt the breath on the left side of his neck. And he said he got scared so bad that he ran down the hill. He didn't grab anything he left there. He left his backpack, he left his hunter's chair, the water bottle he had brought. All he had was the rifle on his back and his pistol on his side, and he just started running down the side of the hill. He couldn't even see. It was so dark. And he decided to just take off. And then he said supposedly what he tells us is that he heard it coming back after him down the hill. And that he turned around and shined the flashlight, and he just saw the glimpse of the eyes, just the kind of like the yellow eyes that you see if you shine the flashlight at like your dog or your cat or whatever. Shined it in the back behind him, and he just saw those eyes coming after him in the trees. He ran, and then he fell down towards the end of the hill. And then he just laid there behind a big rock and waited it out to see what happened. He said nothing happened after that, but man, he said his heart was beating so fast that he felt like he was probably going to pass out. He said he was shaking, he couldn't breathe right, and he hurt his ankle on the way down, but he wasn't even bothered by that because of the fact that his adrenaline was pumping so much. Just it was so instantaneous that he didn't know what to do. He was just freaking out. And my dad and James come up on the trail with the 4-wheeler, and they see him laying down on the side of the hill, and they ask him what's wrong, and he just inaudible. He couldn't even think of the right words to say. He was trying to get the words out, saying something along the lines of hand and ran and my stuff, and they just like, well, like, come on, let's go, let's get out of here. And then they finally got back to camp, and that's when he told us, what kind of happened, more or less. And at first we thought it was just bullshit. We thought he was just bullshitting with us, but man, he looked fucking freaked out. That's the only way to put it. Like, he said that he literally felt the hand on his shoulder, and that's just something that it didn't feel good at all. He said it just it made his stomach sink. It just made him feel like empty inside, like, oh fuck, what the hell is that? I remember seeing his face. I just thought it was so funny. A baboon scaring the shit out of him. So he says that it was probably a baboon. Joe says that it probably wasn't. It's probably just a branch or some shit. But for him to say that he felt the breath and whatnot, makes it a little bit different. But I mean, hey, I wasn't there, so I can't vouch for that. But I just think that's a pretty interesting story. That if it was really a baboon, then he'd actually experienced that. So they're still out there somewhere. Not just probably those two, but if they breed it or whatever, then there's more. And that's pretty creepy, because those things are fucking terrifying. Like, they're fucking dangerous. I wouldn't know what to do if I came across one. I'd probably try to get away from it just like that, because I would not want to deal with that thing. Those things are out of this world. Those teeth, there's something different. But that's how that hill got the name Baboon Hill, or that's kind of more or less why it stuck. You know, we had kind of just joked around with it, but that's what solidified that name, to have it as Baboon Hill. Finally, another story that I was actually there for. It's actually not a creepy story or a bad story per se. I guess it was more just an encounter that I didn't expect to have. You know, nothing bad happened to us. But we were out on Divorce Hill, making the phone calls, because it's the only place that we get receptions, right? So it's the tallest peak that we have in the lease. That's the only place we can get reception. We have to drive all the way up the side of the mountain to go up there. And so it was me, my dad, Joe, Paco, and I believe it was Mike. I think it was Mike. All of us were going up there. You know, we all fit in the Jeep. We were all going to go make some phone calls. You know, me and my dad were going to call my mom and my little brothers, because they didn't come with us this time. Joe was going to call his wife. Mike was going to call his son. And Paco was going to call his wife. So we went up there. It was nighttime. We had already finished our evening hunt. We left everything there except for a couple of us brought our pistols. I brought my shotgun. My dad brought his rifle, you know, just in case. And so we were just up there making calls. And I had just finished making my call, so I was just sitting in the back of the Jeep. Well, not in the back, but on the top rack, you know, looking out, seeing what I could see through the scope of the rifle. While my dad was making a phone call to my mom. Mike was on his phone. Joe was sitting down in the driver's seat of the Jeep, and Paco was sitting in the passenger seat of the Jeep. We were just all sitting up there and, you know, just enjoying it. And I was just looking through the scope, looking at the stars, because when you're out there, man, the stars are beautiful. When you're out there at night, there's no any kind of lights from anywhere else. It's just so beautiful to see all those stars across the sky. You know, it's something that I love doing whenever I'm out there, is at nighttime, just gazing at the stars. And then every once in a while, I try my best to try and see if I can see a shooting star or a satellite, and I've seen a couple satellites, you know, kind of just worming its way through the stars out there, and it's pretty cool. So I was looking at the scope, trying to see what I can find, see if I can find any satellites in the distance or any type of, you know, different things just to see through the scope while I'm looking in the stars of the sky, hoping to see something cool, see something different, you know, always hoping to see something new when I'm looking up there. And so yeah, I put the rifle down. I'm just looking out ahead of us, and as we're just sitting there, overhead behind us, we hear this loud, I guess you wouldn't call it like wind, but like a gust, like something just like a bird, you know, when it flaps its wing, you hear a little gust from the side. It sounded like that, but it was big. It was like a literal big gust of wind, you know, behind us. And I know when we're up that high, there's cross breezes, right? There's cross winds, but this one sounded unnatural. And then as we're there, overhead, over all of us, you know, it's just this big shadow. I mean, it's nighttime, but like you can tell when there's still shadows out there. This huge shadow just goes right over us, and we just feel like this wind trailing, you know, from south to north, going in front of us, just going right over our heads, going over the valley down there. And as we look up, we see this huge fucking wingspan. I'm talking like massive wingspan, like rivaling a small plane wingspan. You know, it was so huge. I had never seen it look like, I'm telling you, it literally looked like a bird. But it was that big, and it wasn't flapping. It wasn't, you know, actively trying to fly. It was just kind of more or less just gliding down. And it was so fucking massive. I had never seen anything that big in my life. And I remember at first I was the one who noticed it, and, you know, I caught attention to to Joe and Paco sitting there in the Jeep, and I told them, look up there, look at that. What the hell is that? And they looked, and Joe was like, oh my God, what is that? And my dad and Mike take note of it, and man, they didn't know what to do. We all just kind of just stared at it in awe. You know, I had never seen anything like that. I'd never seen anything like that again. But just looking at the wingspan of it, it's kind of like just looked like that, like the wings were elegant as hell. You know, they looked so gracefully just spread out like that, like if it's just soaring and enjoying the night sky. You know, it was so kind of surreal, and it felt like it was just kind of peaceful. And I didn't feel creeped out or anything. You know, I didn't feel scared. I didn't feel frightened. I didn't feel anything other than just amazed. I guess that's the only word I can kind of get. It would be, I was just amazed at what the hell had just happened. And we kind of ran to the edge of the area we were at, you know, trying to get a better look at it, trying to look through the binoculars, and you couldn't make out any details, you know, like no kind of colors or anything like that. It was just kind of dark. And like I said, it was night, and we just saw this little, it's like a huge bird, a huge ass bird flying over, and it just kind of just went over us, and then it just dipped into the, you know, the valley below us, and kind of just glided over the trees down there before we kind of lost sight of it as it went further away, right? And that was something that I honestly never thought about seeing. And when we got back there, or as we're heading back down, you know, I remember asking, you know, just making sure that I wasn't going crazy. I felt like I was going crazy at that point, you know, just like I just saw this huge ass bird that was literally looking like a plane size bird that I never thought I'd see in my life. And I asked, what was that? Like, what could be that big? And Paco tells us that he thinks it was a thunderbird. And I didn't know at the time, you know, I had kind of just heard the word referenced here and there, but I didn't know exactly a lot about it. But I remember as we got back to camp, Paco kind of explained it to me. So I don't know if you guys might know what it is, but a thunderbird is like it's from Indian culture, I guess you could say, Native American culture. It's supposed to be this huge bird, kind of like the ones you see. If you think about the totem poles that Native Americans used to make, right? Usually at the top there is a bird sitting at the top of it, and it's supposed to be not one of the most important, but one of the more important mythological creatures that they believed in, right? A legendary creature. So it's supposed to be I guess you could say, a symbol of strength and power. It's really depicted a lot. He used to tell us that it was written in songs and their art. It goes back in a lot of their histories, you know. He told us that it was from I believe it was from the Winnebago tribe, the Ojibwe tribe, and one other one that I remember, but I'm not sure. But one of the more prominent ones that I remember was him telling us about the Ojibwe tribe. I remember him telling us that the Thunderbirds were created by Nanaboso. They were used for fighting and the care of rain and water. He said another thing that they were used for was punishment for individuals who were part of the tribe that broke the moral codes and broke the moral rules. It was believed that there was multiple birds. There was, if I remember him telling me, there was 4. You know, it's kind of symbolized the 4 directions: north, south, east, and west. And they would always come in the springtime and leave, you know, in the wintertime, because for the birds it was the most dangerous time. And like I said, it was the wintertime, and it was heading from south to north, like if it was heading out, at least from where we were at, I guess you could say. So I don't know if that had anything to do with us seeing it. That's just something that I remember him telling us. And one of the other things that I remember him telling us is that if you were, back then, when they believed that if you were lucky enough to witness a thunderbird, you would have good luck, and you would become a great chief, or what do you call it? A warrior. I guess he would call him. I remember there was a specific word, you know, in the tribe that it was used for, but But you would become a good war chief. Because, like I said, and depending on what tribe you were from, it believed that it was either a symbol of strength and power, or a symbol of, good luck and rain. It was something that was used in certain tribes that I remember him telling us about, that it was used to fight off a great serpent. So it was meant to be as like a protector. I think that was from I don't want to say the tribe that I think it was, but I think it was the Minami, something along those lines. Oh, I know it was with an M. So forgive me if you know, but I don't remember all the tribe names because there's just so many out there. But I remember it was something with an M. I believe it was like a Minami or Minami tribe, that the Thunderbirds were, or the Thunderbird, it was actually only one for that tribe. It was drawn in their culture. They were drawn as a huge bird with the shape of an X in its body, and it would always fight off this great horned serpent that would always try to overthrow the people's resources, like take away their water and bring bad luck to them. But that the Thunderbird itself was meant as a protector for the people. Obviously birds eat snakes. So that was one thing that I remember. That's something that I have always remembered and have never forgotten because of how impactful it was to me, because that's one of the few ones that I witnessed myself. Like I said, other things are just things that I've caught like quick glimpses of. I've seen like weirdly shaped figures, out of my peripheral vision while I'm in the cabin by myself waiting for people to come back. I've seen those hundreds of times. And I feel like I've also seen different types of not shadowy type figures, but just things that don't look right, like oddly shaped shadows that I can never really tell what they are, kind of in the distance. But those are things that are kind of along the supernatural-ish type side that I've had happen to me and that I remember. I think another thing that happened to me, it's not supernatural per se, but it was pretty creepy. Something that had never happened before. When I was there, so we were in the back. We had just finished putting up all our stuff from the hunt that we were on in the evening. We had just gotten a couple bucks, and we were out there in the back cleaning them out so we can quarter them up and take them home the next day, right? And so as we're just sitting there, we have on one light, and Joe was trying to get the generator to start so we can get our huge like floodlights, right? Because we were kind of having trouble seeing some of the stuff around there with such a small area, and such a big area, but only a small light to kind of help us and guide us as we're working on the stuff back there. Anyway, so me and my dad are working on the buck that he had just shot earlier that day, and we just finished cutting it, and we were skinning it, and we heard stuff moving, because like the way our cabin is kind of like on a little hill, and we heard stuff moving on the hill to our left hand side. That's where the trail wasn't at, so we knew it wasn't anybody from us. But like I said, there's always a shit ton of small animals like raccoons and different types of little armadillos and stuff like that run around, around us trying to get scraps and whatnot. There's rabbits. We have other wild animals out there, of course, but we didn't think much of it. And in the distance, in the far distance, like towards where the entrance is, we had heard coyotes, right? We had heard a couple of coyotes out there, and we just kind of let it be. Tried not to make a lot of noise. Had Red put a fire out in the front because they kind of stay away from the flames, and just in case they decide to come up, because they like to come up to camp whenever it gets late at night to try to get food whenever we're done with everything. Of course, any kind of animals come up there, but you keep the fire on and it kind of keeps them away a bit. So we did that, and try to get done with everything. It was getting late. We're getting tired. We had been out all day. We had worked on the feeders. We had worked on a couple of the blinds that were getting run down and stuff like that, doing a little bit of repairs here and there. Then we went out for the hunt, and we had just gotten back about an hour ago, finished eating, and then decided to go ahead and do what we had to do. So as we're there, we kind of keep hearing stuff to our left hand side, and I started getting this weird feeling like whatever's there isn't isn't something that's normally there. It's not right. And Joe finally gets the generator work, and it's gonna take a second before he can get the lights on. So I get my flashlight off the side of my belt, and I shine it down the side of the hill, and I see a couple sets of eyes. You know, they're kind of all not grouped together, but you know, like a loose group of eyes, just watching us. You know, they're just watching our every move. And you know, I tell Joe how much longer he gets the lights on, because I see something over here. You know, it's like I'm about to turn them on right now. And so I put my flashlight up and I get my pistol out, and while my dad's finishing putting the stuff in the ice chest from what we had corded up, and told him that there's something right there. There's a couple things right there. So, you know, pay attention. And as we look down that way, Joe turns on the lights, and we see about 5 or 6 coyotes just watching us from the side of the hill. They're kind of just crouched down, and they're watching us from behind a couple rocks and behind a couple of those shrubs that are right there. Don't know how long they had been there. Like I said, we've been hearing stuff for a while, and they must have inched their way up as close as they can get, but they were really close. You know, I'd say less than about 15 to 20 yards away, maybe, at most. And that's being nice. Like, I feel like they were even closer than that, but that just might have been how I felt. But I didn't know what to do at that second. So I just started slowly backing up. You know, we had already put everything away, so I was just slowly backing up. I had my pistol in my hand in case one of them wanted to come up to us, or try to run at us. You know, we had never had any come that close to camp that we know of. You know, other than when we're inside and they're not messing with us. But I had never come that close. Like, it felt like it was too close for comfort, literally. Like, I wasn't afraid of it or anything, but I didn't want it to try to attack me or my dad, and you know, us not be able to do anything about it, because there's, like I said, there was about 5 or 6 of them, and they could literally gang up on one of us, and it'd be it. Yeah, there'd be nothing we could do about it when there's so many. It's kind of hard to fend them off when they're attacking you. So we kind of slowly made our way back, and you know, went around the side of the cabin and went up to the porch, got inside, and we looked out the window on the left-hand side of the cabin, and we saw that they were just a couple of them were just sitting back there, but the other ones were kind of getting up close to where we were at, back in the back, and snooping around and trying to see what kind of scraps they could find. But man, that was something that I never thought I'd experienced that, and I don't even think that's something that's supernatural or paranormal enough to kind of give me the chills. But that seeing that thing that made the chills run down my spine in an instant, because I knew what kind of damage those things could do, and I knew that any kind of movement could freak them out, and they'd either haul ass out of there, or they either haul ass towards us and attack us. And I wasn't willing to take the risk to have that happen, you know. It was kind of a heated moment, you know. I kind of felt like something was just kind of like in slow motion for me at a slow point, where I connected eyes with a couple of them as I'm, you know, looking at them in full light. Like, it was creepy. It just gave me the chills to see that so close, and knowing that there's just so much they could do without any kind of effort, you know. But we're all right. They kind of tore some shit up in the back, trying to get the meat that we had left in the ice chest. So they tore up a lot of shit, but you know, it's better than them tearing us up, you know. But we let it be, and decided to kind of make a fence around not a fence, but I guess more or less like a little barrier in between us and around the stuff that we have, just in case anything like that happens again, you know. Because that was too close for comfort. We never thought they'd ever get that close to camp, especially with fire. But it could have just been because, you know, we were in the front. I mean, we weren't in the front, we were in the back of the cabin, and the fire was out front, and we only had that small light. I mean, I don't know if the light bothers them or not, but I feel like just that small light probably wouldn't have been enough to do anything for them, you know. But anyways, that's just that's something that I found really interesting, but really chilling at the same time, because that could have been really bad. You know, it could have gone a lot worse than nothing happening, and I'm kind of glad that nothing happened. But it's still a good story to tell, I love that. I love that, the fact that happened, because it's something to look back on. But anyways, that'll probably wrap it up around, guys. Those are a couple of the good stories that, well, at least in my opinion, that are good. A couple that I heard and a couple that happened to me. Like I said, those are just a couple things. Maybe I could think of more. I feel like I've had a couple other things happen, but those are probably my favorites. And I know a couple stories that other people have told me while they're out there. There's an endless amount of stories to what other people have experienced. They've been doing it a lot longer than I have, so they have a lot of stories, and I've heard a lot. Some of them might be true, some of them might not be, because I know at least one of them who tells the stories, Leroy. Man, he messes around a lot, so I feel like a lot of his are fake. But they're just there to me. But I still find them interesting, so it's not like it's a bad thing. However, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I feel like this was a lot longer, not a lot longer, but a good amount longer than my usual episode. So, like I said, usually when it comes to stuff that I can talk about, that I'm used to, or that is from my own experience, I can talk about it for a while. I have a lot of stuff to tell, just because I like talking about stuff that I've experienced, because I feel like it might be interesting to you guys. So, I hope you guys found this really interesting. I hope maybe it might have shed some light on some stuff that you might not have known about. Maybe it made you want to go out and try to experience some things for yourself. If you do, please be careful. Shit's dangerous, especially if you're not with somebody. You never know what can happen, and you always want to take the proper safety precautions, because things can go bad in an instant. That's why we kind of stay in a group together whenever we go out. But like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I really love talking to you guys. I really love sharing my stories with you guys, because I hope you guys really find them interesting. If you have any that you would like to share, you can message me on social media. Now I have, like I said in the last episode, I have an Instagram account that is the same thing as a podcast, and Insomniac's Insight. I kind of just, so far, just been posting updates of my current episodes. Maybe I'll post some other stuff here and there, and a couple posts where you guys can ask me questions if you guys want, or just things you might find interesting to do. But if you have anything you want to share, anything you want to suggest, please do so. I'd be more than happy to, see if I can include it on the podcast, or, maybe you'll give me another topic to talk about for the podcast. So I greatly appreciate it. And like I said, always, if you have any kind of feedback, if you liked it, if you hate it, whatever the case may be, let me know. And I'll be happy to see what I can do to make this whole experience better for you guys, because I do this for you guys. Just for you guys' enjoyment, because I love doing it, but seeing that other people like what I have to say, makes it all worth it. But hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I know Thanksgiving is right here, so I hope you guys have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Eat as much as you can. Please don't hold back, because I know some people love to eat, and I'm one of those people. I will eat probably about maybe 3 or 4 plates tomorrow if I get the chance. I know I probably shouldn't, but I will probably be hungry, and I love my family's cooking. But anyway, guys, have a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving, and have a wonderful weekend if I do not get the chance to upload the rest of this week, because I feel like I won't be able to because of the holiday. And I will be back next week, most likely, with a new topic. But take care, guys. Bye.